Hi, Minesh Baxi here, and this is the Positive Parenting Podcast. And I love bringing really quality guests, people who are, followers of Christ and who are also being great role models in the community, both from family and parental aspect, and also in the role that they have. And that's why I'm so excited that I moved to Palm Coast and joined the Parkview Church, which now Pastor Trey will be roughly what 3 years as a
hmm
member here. So I appreciate his role here, and thank you, Pastor Trey, for joining us.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me.
Well, my pleasure. And this podcast is to help people become aware. We all will have challenges. Nobody's going to have a perfect life. We already know that because if we had a perfect life, we'll be on the cross, right? So that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So for us, we are all going to have challenges. And this is to help people understand some of the challenges that people may go through, but also give them some roadmap, give them some ideas on that. So before we
hmm
go further into that, Pastor Trey, tell me a little bit about your journey of becoming a pastor.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in the west side of Jacksonville, Florida. And so my dad is a pastor, was a pastor my whole life growing up, still is a pastor, a great man of faith. And my mom was a school teacher and has taught fifth grade at the same school for 33 years now. And dad's been a pastor at the same church for 33 years. And so just a legacy over there and beyond thankful and grateful for them. And I had a front row seat to ministry. And, with my dad always counseling people or having people over, just got to see the ins and outs of it. And here's what I'd say about ministry. Ministry is what we call brutiful. It's beautiful and brutal both at the same time. And so it's brutal. And there was enough that I saw about, different families or just kind of just the brutality of ministry um and I'm not painting it in a negative way, but it was enough to be like, I don't know if that's what I want to do with my life. And so I wanted to go to college to go into get my criminal justice degree, possibly go into law enforcement, and I was privileged to get a basketball scholarship to go play somewhere. For the first semester of my college career, I had next to no peace about where I was, what I was doing, and I felt like I was a Jonah moment, in the Bible, running from whatever it is that I was supposed to be doing. And so, about halfway through my freshman year of college, mid basketball season, I just got on my knees and I just said, Lord, what is it you've gifted me to do? And how can I use that to advance your kingdom? Because I feel what I'm doing right now is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I just took some evaluation. I recognized I had leadership skills. I had the ability to communicate and teach others things that, maybe they weren't aware of, or I would just have the ability to open the Bible and help people, help it make sense to people. So I just said, Lord, I know I'm called to ministry. And so the second I said yes to it and transferred to Trinity College of Jacksonville, just supernatural peace overwhelmed my soul and got into student ministry. And then we planted a church a couple years ago in the Orlando area. And eventually, our life in this road has led us to Parkview Church in Palm Coast, Florida. And again, like you said, coming up in May, 3 years.
Wow, that is incredible. And you brought great energy. I love your messages. And again, you
Appreciate
are
it.
so humble and easy to relate to. You are willing to always share your challenges, whether it's as a parent, as a son,
Mhm.
whether it's part of a family, and so on and so forth. So I really learn a lot from you, and I always enjoy your message whenever you're the person sharing the message on the stage there as well. So let's talk a little bit about values.
Yeah.
You grew up where automatically Christianity was being taught.
Yeah.
Was what your front row seat was.
Yeah.
So there, everybody is not going to have that kind of pastoral background in their
Right.
family.
Right.
Why do you think it is important to teach, in your case, as an example, the faith, and how? What are some of the things that parents can use to help that in their family?
Yeah. So I would say for me growing up, what it gave me was a lot of structure and it gave me a foundation of morality that was beyond what I felt to be right or wrong. It really painted a clear picture. And so it wasn't, the Warren household had these values that no other family had. It was we have values that are not from our life experience, but from our an eternal, perspective, from the Lord via his word. Did I always follow them? Absolutely not. I do not know of a perfect child. And did my parents always, follow them or teach them, and or hold on to them and hold them up in value? No, not always. But what it did was it gave us a true north. It gave us a clear structure. And I think the importance, especially in 2026, for parents with, college students, high school students, middle school students, elementary, and go on down, people with kids, is they are a really unstructured, and I say this with all the love, an unstructured generation, and also a generation that does not remember things well. AI, Chat GPT, all of those things, the phone, you have access to the entire database of all the world's information. And so, why do you need to memorize it when it's a search engine away? And so, just instituting those home values, getting them in their souls and in the fabric of their DNA at a young age will help them to remember, will help them to live it out, and will help them, to have a true north and a moral compass that's not based on feelings or cultural trends, but is based on eternal truth.
I think that is so important. And one of the challenges I've run into sometimes with people, parents especially, oh, I don't want to force my beliefs on my children. And I'm like, you know what? I am very much opposed to that thinking. To
Yeah,
me, the world is going to really ram down your children's throats. Whether
yeah,
you believe it, you accept it, or you don't, whether you think it is right or whether it's wrong. Every
yeah,
day, an advertisement, every day, a movie, people in
yeah.
your school class and everything else, they may have very different opinions and they're not going to shy away from putting them
Mhm.
on. So,
Yeah.
what is your opinion on parents who may have to be clarified a little bit on?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you said the right word, impose. You don't want to impose. Well, let me tell you, no other person second guessing imposing their values upon their child. Um, Influencers want to impose agenda. Media outlets want to impose a narrative. Social media wants to impose, these ways of thinking, dressing, eating, lifestyle, working out, all of these things. Schools are trying to impose, a curriculum. Like everybody's trying to impose and shape these young souls. And I think the one thing that should not be, or let me say it like this, and I preached a message about this when we try to be polite, the enemy prowls to pervert what God intended to be pure. And so I think, and I am all for, I think you should impose. It's probably the best thing that can be imposed upon your child is Christian values and biblical truth. But here's the thing, it like social media paints it in a positive picture. And sometimes we get it wrong when we're dogmatic and we use it as a weapon rather than it is actually the best life possibly to be lived is one aligned with the word of God. It's not gonna, some people are like, no, it's meant to hurt. No, it's meant to help. You're like, well, I don't understand. Like, it's really constraining me. Well, you would never light a bonfire without parameters because it keeps the fire in how it's supposed to be designed. And this is what God's word does. It puts parameters around our life to help us, not hurt us. And so I would just be highly, highly, highly in favor of being like, listen, the world is trying to impose, the world is trying to disciple. Parents, be a parent, lean in, step in, speak up when you need to speak up. And let me also say this. I don't want to take too much time, but I am also a big proponent of asking questions to get to a desired answer. And so while I rarely with our teenagers will say, hey, I think you need to do this, I will ask questions to get them to confess or say, based on the realization by the guiding of the questions, they come to the conclusion of, I think I need to do this. I'm like, I think you're right. And I didn't have to dogmatically tell them. It's just guiding them, purposefully and intentionally through the boundaries and filters that God words teaches to get them to an answer that maybe they think they came up with on their own. But you didn't want to just dogmatically tell them that in the first place.
Well, I agree with you. And I think the part of being a good role model comes in play, like walk
Hmm.
the walk, not just talk the
Yeah.
talk. And because my children have, because I was born in a Hindu family and I
Yeah.
converted to Christianity 7.5 years ago after my father passed away.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because I was surrounded by some good Christian role models. These
Yeah.
people were good people. They were good stewards of their time, money,
Yeah.
relationships in their family, etc., which made me say, hey, you know what? I may have a different opinion about what Christians are, but at least I can see they, in my opinion, based on the values that I was brought up in, they are good people.
Yeah.
They are helpful, kind, caring people that are out there to do a good thing for people. So
Yeah.
made my job easier. So for me personally, because relatively I was a good enough role model where I spent enough time with my children
Yeah.
that they are willing to spend time with me today. And
Yeah.
that is, I think, what parents need to realize is that you can't be talking about everything, but if your relationship with God and your family is not aligned,
Yeah.
well, please don't expect,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
having a great relationship with your family and then them not wanting to listen to you.
Yeah. I think, proximity is the great revealer. And so when people get close, they can see right through what is real and what is not. And hopefully and prayerfully, your kids are not excluded from your life, but included in your life, and they'll see through hypocrisy from a mile away. And so, like you just said, it is highly, I mean, it is so important if you're going to be a parent who teaches Christian values to live it out as well.
Exactly, exactly. And to me, love God and love people. The people starts with your own family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Well, we talk about problems with children. My
Yeah,
opinion is very simple. If we fixed parents, children would get fixed automatically.
yeah,
That's how I
absolutely.
look at it.
Well, I mean, in our next gen ministry, so I oversee nursery through all of our college ministry. I have an amazing staff that I get to lead. We talk about it all the time. Our goal, yes, is to steward the relationships we have with those kids or those students or those toddlers or those college age students. But we get them for an hour a week. The parent gets them, multiply that by 20 or 30 hours a week. So the best way to influence those students or those kids is to influence and reach those parents. Because again, we're not part of your we are part of your kid's spiritual formation, but you are their primary discipler. And I know that can feel daunting, you know. Uh, that's why, those parents need community and discipleship. But I'm 110% with you, man. The way to influence parents or kids is to influence parents 110%.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are a couple of topics which are very dear to my heart that I want to bring them up. So the first is you have been relatively married a shorter time than I am. Last Friday was my 34th anniversary with Kim.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you. So in your opinion, in the world we live in today, especially because my daughter is 22, single,
Yeah.
my son is 18, and they're brought up in Christian,
Hmm.
values. So they just don't go around dating just like willy-nilly and kind of stuff, you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How would you recommend that young, because you have a lot of young adults in your
Mhm.
tutelage as well, what should they be doing to find the right spouse?
I think number one, it starts with being the right person. So, Andy Stanley has a great quote: "Don't look for the one, be the one that the other person would be looking for." And so I think, you need to be somebody that maybe somebody in your same spiritual sphere of maturity would even consider being somebody worth pursuing. And so I think a lot of times, we think a relationship would fix us, when in actuality, Jesus is the only one that can heal us. And so when we find healing in Jesus and contentment in Him, we're actually not desperate for a relationship. It is a bonus and it is a plus, but it is not the end all be all. And so when we start to find contentment, completion, and healing in Him, we start to become somebody who is made whole, not looking for somebody to complete, but somebody who is made whole. And I think that's whenever we can start to give the green light to people that age to be like, heck yeah, put yourself out there. And now here's what I would say about that. It's not just who you're becoming, it's where you're looking. And so, if you expect to find a wholesome, godly person, you know, on Tinder, on, Bumble, whatever. I don't even know what half these dating apps are, or even like, the bar scene. Um, I don't know if you're a fisherman or not, but my brother, if he wants to go looking and uh catch a tuna or whatever, he's not going to go to the retention pond in the back of the church because that's the fish aren't there. And so if the quality of person you're looking for, or the type of quality person you're looking for, you need to look in the right places. So I personally think, this is just my humble opinion, the best place to look for a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever you want to call it, is in the local church. And now I get it. Not every church is full of young people. Not every church maybe has the type of person that you are looking for, but I think that's a great place to start, baseline, and then we can go from there. But I would make sure that you are becoming the right person, and then secondly, I would start looking in the right places. Maybe not your local church, because I understand not everybody has a big young adult ministry, but make sure they are going to church and make sure they are plugged in. And so that's kind of a 1,000 foot view, just the two simple principles. But make sure you are the person worth pursuing yourself. You are whole, complete, and healed in Jesus Christ. And then number two, make sure you're looking in the right places.
Totally. I'm in agreement with 110% on
Yeah,
that. One thing which I do see lacking is there is enough Tinder, Bumble, or whatever else is out there. I'm well before that generation because I've been
yeah,
married 34
yeah,
years. But
yeah,
I think there needs to be potentially, and maybe there is some that I don't know about, is ways for young adults to meet with each other on common ground, like learning of.
yeah,
Like I went to Weekend to Remember, which was
yeah,
a marriage ministry in Orlando that I attended with my wife, and I know they have a lot of satellites and stuff like that trainings.
yeah.
Something similar for young adults with three things which I would recommend. And if I have your support, I would like to start it. I would invest in it.
Mm,
Is the relationship, career, and money. So if we
mm,
could have three topics at a young adults conference, I would be more
yeah,
than excited to sponsor, be part of it, promote it,
yeah.
because to me, that would help them see that there are a lot of people, not just a few people who think like you,
Hmm.
who are headed in that same direction. So
Yeah,
let's talk about it offline if you have some
yeah,
ideas. I would love to
absolutely, man.
connect with more young adult pastors as well, which you can help me connect with as well. So
Yeah.
the last part of, oh, go ahead, finish your comment on it. So go ahead.
No, no. I mean, I think that's simply that's it, man. And I, yeah, I just think, and I would also say this. I think Christian culture has put a lot of pressure on the dating game.
Yes.
You uh, the you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm going on a date this Friday," right?
Mhm.
And then it's like post date, you're debriefing with your friends, and the question is like, do you think they're the one? And, I just spent 2 hours with somebody. How am I supposed to know if I want to spend the rest of my life with them?
Yep.
I think it needs to be a little bit of grace around
Mhm.
the pressure
Mhm.
around Christian dating.
Yeah.
There's that whole joke when you go to Bible college, ring by spring in your freshman year.
Mhm.
You don't have to be engaged right away. You don't have to have all this pressure. That
I,
doesn't mean you date around, but it just means you don't need to feel that pressure
yeah.
in our world to commit your life to somebody after 2 hours of a conversation. That's crazy.
I agree with you totally on that, and it takes time. And again, anyway, so we can have that conversation separately. The
Yeah.
next topic I want to talk briefly about is money, because I think, well, maybe you know this, but I'm in the financial services arena
Hmm.
and I'm training my son in that arena as well. And one of the things I have found is based on my own mistakes that I have made, maybe you have not made those mistakes, but most parents are not teaching their children about being good stewards about money. So how would you
Hmm.
teach something like that to children?
Well, that's a great question. Number two, there was not a whole lot of in-depth teaching in my life growing up around it. I've had to do a lot of failure and a lot of having to climb out of holes of debt early on in our life. And I'll also say this, the economy does not help, but there are some basic principles that my parents taught me early on. It's the 80-10-10 rule. You save 10, whatever you make, right? Let's just say I got $10 for my birthday as a 5-year-old. I save 10%, so I save $1. I take $1 and I put it in the offering at church. And then I have $8 to do whatever I want with. And that was really, I think, I mean, from what I can early honestly remember, like my 5-year-old birthday party, 6-year-old birthday party, let's say my family didn't want to give toys and I got like $50. My parents would make me take five out. I would put it in the offering. I would take five out. I put it in a piggy bank, and I would have 40 left over. Um, and it was that just instilled a okay, no matter what happens, I need to save, and no matter what happens, I need to be generous with what God has been generous to me. And then I can live off the rest. And sometimes when we talk to young adults or even students around finances, there is this pressure to have a lifestyle. And sometimes that lifestyle does not match up to your means. And so you will have a $3,000 bag with $0 in it rather than a $10 bag with 2,999 or $90 in it. And I just, man, I think here's what I do think. I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha are coming out of that. I think that they do not care. Status is not something that is maybe matters as much as maybe it does to millennials or, young millennials or older millennials. But just those basic principles though of teaching them giving matters, saving matters. And if you could just do 10% on each and live off 80, that's your means. And so I mean, that's a very basic ABC principle, and I don't think we have time to go in intricate principles, but that's a very simple, basic one.
And I'm in total agreement with you on the basic philosophy behind it. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you are, for people who are bad at managing money, and I've made enough mistakes, so I would say if you did, like you talked about the tithing part, so that is obviously there. If you focused on basically two simple things outside of the tithing, is number one is invested a certain minimum for your future.
yeah,
And number two is stayed out of debt. Like you
yeah,
did not, you paid off your credit card that month, you didn't go
mm,
into more debt next month. And if
yeah,
you focused on that on a consistent basis, at some point, even if you don't have a great plan, you're going to be further ahead because
yeah,
you made, like I was just talking to another church member who mentioned your name as well when I talked about money, that I should talk to you because young adults need that education.
hmm,
She's being part of
yeah,
your young adult ministry. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And the same thing we were talking about, I was like, hey, you know what? Currently in Roth IRA, you can put away $7,500 a year. Now, it may
yeah,
be a stretch for some people, I get that, but
yeah,
maximize it to the degree you can, and then don't get into debt anymore. Then you will not have to face hardships down the road because I meet so many people in their 50s, even 60s, who have not
hmm,
much to show for despite having worked hard for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's just crazy to see that as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we'll do a lot of premarital counseling with young adults and maybe even young professionals. And I'll ask them to show me their budget and they don't have one. And so it's just helping get a budget of do you understand what your utility bill will be? Do you understand how much internet costs? Do you understand? And when you start to compile all that up, they thought they had all this free money to just do whatever with. And I'm like, you actually don't have the margins that you think you have. And but just them knowing that helps them because that way
yes.
they're not, financially illiterate. And so a simple one that we typically help with is called the zero out budget.
Okay.
Um, and it's not for everybody, I get that, but it is every cent you will make in a month is assigned to a category in your budget. And so there should not be rollover money. If there is, great, but it just helps you to keep track. And there are certain apps that you can connect to your cards that will keep things itemized for you and all that. We can get into all of that, but just creating a budget helps, and talking with somebody to help you create a budget helps, but also understanding that generosity and savings are a huge part of that budget.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you are doing that because
Yeah.
all of these kids are getting married with the new responsibilities, maybe buying a house or buying a new
Yeah.
car or whatever else they need to do. And nobody has been teaching them how to plan for it. And if somebody is not giving them any direction, they're likely to go towards what the credit card companies want them to do, which is
Right.
pay 24% interest. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and you're
Which
only paying
is,
off the interest monthly, you're actually making a dent on the debt. And what's also, and it's different, and it started to shift in my generation, and it's way different than your generation, is this students are not, or college age kids, young professionals are not moving out until they get married. They don't know what it's like to pay rent. They don't know what it's like to have utility bills. They don't know what it's like to pay internet or phone or car insurance or any of these things. And so they go from zero bills to $2,400 a month in bills, and they're suffocating and they feel overwhelmed. And it just takes somebody to walk them through and says, number one, welcome to adulthood. And number two, you can do this. You have to be strategic, but you can do this. So
Well,
yeah,
totally, totally. And one
yeah.
of the goals that I think Sahil would love to interview you on his podcast as well uh, is that basically he's has a podcast called Future Millionaires. Do you know what I'm saying? And the Future
Mm-hmm.
Millionaires podcast is about helping young teenagers with their part-time. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Start investing 50 to $100 a month when they are getting their first Chick-fil-A, McDonald's job at
Yeah.
16. And then by the time they're in their 60s, they will
Hmm.
have a million or something like that that they
Yeah.
had not even thought about because that's what happened with them as well. So that's one
Yeah.
of our goals. So I'm looking to connect with more young adults, young people who are starting out their career so we can help them with something small today, but it'll turn into a big amount down the road.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, thanks for taking the time today, Pastor Trey, because
Mhm.
this was very helpful and fun for me. I mean, I
Yeah.
already always enjoy your company. You're a great fun guy to be around, and I'm
Appreciate
looking
it.
forward to continuing to support you, your ministry, and continue to support the church.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you and your family. Y'all are a blessing to us.
Thank you.